so many people go through it, and you don't find out until someone initiates that conversation.
Welcome back to the Recalibrate podcast, a series of conversations and ideas that help us connect more deeply to others and therefore ourselves. Each episode is designed to help you reflect and reconnect, leaving you more inspired on your path towards a more purpose-driven life. Before we get into the episode, if you could go ahead and rate the podcast wherever you listen and also subscribe, that would be super, super helpful. Let's get into it. Today, I have Liv from Balance by Liv on the podcast, and we talk all about her acne journey, opening up about sharing your insecurities online, how liberating it is to be open about what you're actually experiencing, the journey of becoming a content creator, and how we are releasing the fear of judgment from other people, and how liberating it feels to really be open about what you're experiencing instead of hiding the shame and feeling like it's something that you can't talk about. I feel like we are completely aligned on the power of being open with what you experience and helping people feel less alone in their journey. So I'm so excited to have her on the podcast today, and I can't wait for you guys to hear this episode. Welcome to the podcast, Liv. I'm so excited to have you. I know we were just chatting offline a bit, but this is my first podcast back in like 4 months, so it feels really good to be recording. And I'm so excited that we're recording together. Liv and I actually met in college, serendipitously on like a plane ride that we took one time. I don't even know if you remember that. That was years ago.
I was actually trying to remember how we met, because I know we met in college, but I couldn't remember.
We were both on a flight back, I think our freshman year of college or something. And then we just sat next to each other and started talking. But since then, we followed each other on social media, and we both like kind of changed the content that we post. Like obviously neither of us were posting content in college, and then changed after then. But recently, I've been loving what you've been sharing online. So do you want to do a little brief intro and then we'll get into it?
Yeah, sounds good. So I think it's really important to preface that I moved to LA post-college, because that's kind of when all this started. And by all this, I mean my skin problems. So I moved to LA and I literally got acne overnight, fully have a photo. And I've never struggled with my skin. I felt like I passed the age of hormonal acne. And once I hit like 25, I was like, okay, I'm in the clear, but not really what happened. So got acne overnight, and it literally never went away. For so long, I was trying to like find the root cause and heal naturally, because it just felt really out of sorts for my body. Like I never struggled with my skin. I felt like something was going on, and that was a response to something, because usually acne is like a reaction to a root cause. So I started down this whole journey of trying to holistically heal. I was seeing naturopaths. I was doing all these tests to see what was going on. And I did find out a lot of stuff about my health that I probably wouldn't have found out before if I hadn't gone this route. But ultimately, I wasn't able to clear my acne naturally. I would get like these little snippets of clear skin, and then it would just come back. And at the end of the day, it just really takes a toll on your mental health, as we were talking about before. So now I just started Accutane, which is a really harsh and scary drug just based on conversation and people's opinions and all that. So I decided to start sharing my journey from start to finish on social media, because it just felt like such an isolating event that was happening. Like the day I got acne from now, it's just been like crazy what people say to you, people's unsolicited opinions, just the feeling of like not even wanting to go outside because your skin is just looking so horrible. And so I felt like if I was going through this, so many other people were probably going through it and not talking about it. So what better way to share than on social media and connect with others going through it, get advice that is actually helpful coming from others who are also going through the same thing. So now I'm creating content, and it's really just like an acne safe space where people who struggle with their skin communicate their stories, what's helped them, and just kind of like uplift each other so people know they're not alone. And it's been amazing.
I love that so much. Like that is the most healing thing probably for you too, because in the beginning of your acne journey, and like I've struggled so badly with acne in the past, and a lot of my friends as well, and it feels so shameful, like somehow like you're doing something wrong, or like you said, everyone has their own unsolicited opinions. Well, if you just did this, this, and this, then you'd be fine. So obviously it's your fault or something. And it's so frustrating, because you can spend so much time and energy like trying to figure out what it is. But at the end of the day, it's just like something that you feel insecure about, and it's something that's not talked
Totally.
about. So it's so easy to feel isolated in it. And people are using editing apps and filters and all these things. And how you look online is so different from how people actually look. And the fact that you're just sharing your raw, like authentic, no filtered version of yourself and being open with what you're struggling, I think is so helpful for people on the internet. Like, I was so inspired by everything that you were posting because it just felt so uplifting. Like you said, that people would scroll through and be like, oh, this is like a real person. And they're not just, you know, putting on a shit ton of makeup and being like, everything's fine. And this is like how I look all the time. How has it changed your relationship with how you feel about your skin by sharing it with other people? Do you feel like less insecure about it? Has it helped
I feel
at
like
all?
when I first started posting, I was terrified because who's posting something, you know, like you were saying, unedited and not glamorous on social media? Like, who wants to see my acne? So I think in the beginning it was really scary, but now that I have like built up a community and have people reaching out to me telling me how they never reach out to strangers on the internet, but they really felt inclined to like send me a message because it's been so helpful. I feel like that's helped me feel so much better. A, because I know that I'm helping other people, and B, I just like walk out knowing that, you know, other people are going through it. And if like one person on the street who has a full face of makeup can look at me with my hair slicked back and no makeup on and see that I have acne and I'm just going about my day looking like that, maybe it can inspire them to feel okay about it. So I feel like now that I've like found a way to just own it and know that other people are going through it, it's definitely helped me a lot.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel so much of things I've struggled with in the past too. It's so easy to really build up that insecurity and like feel shameful about it when you're like not hiding it, but like you're just being so, you're not talking about it openly. You're always covering everything up. But then when you're able to just be like, no, I'm owning it. This is me. This is what I look like. And this is just the real version of myself. And this is where I'm at right now. It takes away so much of that power, at least for me, of just like being open with where you're at really does create this liberating feeling where you're just like, I'm a normal
like,
human being. And I've seen the people that I follow on social media that I love are posting real, like raw content. Like I love those people on social media that post like their bodies at the gym or something. And they're like, this is literally me. And this is also me 1 second later. And then one is super posed, lighting is amazing. Like they're just like look so different. And then they post like, you know, this is what my body actually looks like, because we compare ourselves to these edited versions of people that's not even what we look like online.
It's so unrealistic.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of people too, like be really open about their skin and post like raw face makeup. And that's what people really want to see. Like people don't want to just see the perfect version of you on social media. And I know you just went to like a casting call, right? For a makeup brand the other day.
So cool.
What was that like?
Honestly, amazing. Like they said to wear light natural makeup, which is like my usual bare minimum every day if I'm even wearing makeup look. But some girls actually showed up with no makeup at all and like full faces of acne. And I honestly just wanted to go up to them and like hug them, which obviously I would never acknowledge someone's acne without first speaking about it, because no one wants that to be the first thing someone sees about them. But I think I was specifically taking note of it because this beauty brand's whole casting was surrounding like inclusivity and acne and skin texture and showcasing that in ads, because you don't see that. You don't walk into Sephora, you don't see like a billboard on the street with a person with acne. It's always perfect skin with the makeup perfectly applied. Like it's not speaking to such a large community of the beauty industry. So this was super cool to see people participating in it who, you know, felt confident enough to put themselves out there with no makeup on and say like, this is me. Your brand works just as well for me as it does for the person next to me with clear skin.
Such a cool experience. And also, I know you talked a lot about before, like sharing on social media, you did go to a lot of doctors and naturopaths and try to find this root cause of what caused your acne or how you could fix it, which I'm sure took up so much headspace. And it's frustrating. Like I've had health issues before that I couldn't figure out why they were happening. And I feel all my headspace was just spent on like, how do I solve this? How do I fix this? What am I eating? Like all these things, and you can never find like what the one thing is, I feel. Did you Like, what was that process like of like going to all these doctors and trying to find this root cause? And like, how did you get to the point where you're just like, okay, I'm gonna just live my
It's such a good
life?
question because now it's been like a little over 2 years and I feel like it was just yesterday. But when I think back to it, in the beginning, it was kind of like a mystery that I was trying to solve and a world that I never really dove into in terms of the whole like naturopathic, holistic root cause healing. I've always been more of like a natural healer person, but I still believe in modern
Mm,
medicine. Like, I think modern medicine is very powerful for what it is. I just think sometimes we also live in such a rushed society, so we don't find time to actually listen to our bodies. For so long, I was just like going through the motions of testing, and then I'd get an answer to one thing, and I was like, okay, great, this is probably it. Like, let's dive deeper. And then would continue to dive deeper, and we'd get closer and closer, and then suddenly I'd have clear skin for like 3 months, but then I would change one thing in my diet, and suddenly my acne was back. And I just found myself in a
mm,
place of worry. What if I eat this, which I've never had a problem with before? Like, food to me is, I have a really healthy relationship and I'm really lucky for that. And the second I felt that changing, it was like very anxiety provoking because I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. So the second I found myself being like,
yeah.
well, what if I start eating gluten again and then my skin breaks out? Then, it's like this whole stressful thing. So I think once I got to a point where I caught myself worrying about so many different aspects of life, having that headspace so consumed, it was time for me to explore the more modern medicine routes. And I think what I was most afraid of was that so often Accutane is just handed out like candy, but there are so many side effects.
Mm.
And, dermatologists are so used to dealing with it, they kind of ignore that side of it because they're so used to handing it out to patients and patients just taking it. But like, it really takes a special doctor to sit down with you and say, this is the best approach for you personally. These are the side effects. This is what could happen if this does happen, etc. So I think it took me a really long time to find a doctor that I trusted and that actually put me on a route that like felt, more accustomed to me and customized, and that I was being treated as like an individual rather than just part of, the acne community. So I think once it just really
Yeah.
started consuming me and I was feeling like really down and everything was provoking anxiety, I was like, you know what? I just need a break. I need to stop listening to what people say. I need to do what's best for me. I need to see it for myself. And if it doesn't go well, then I tried.
I love that you had that balanced approach with it because I've definitely struggled with this too, where when I was struggling with a lot of health issues, I was in the same exact bucket where I like didn't have these health issues. Now I was having all of these things and I went through like so many doctors, got all the tests. It was so
Yeah.
expensive and
Yeah.
overwhelming. And then I felt so much pressure of like every little thing that I did was going to impact like my symptoms or how I felt, and just this huge ownership and responsibility. And I'm sure like you did, like I was listening to all the podcasts, I was reading all the books, like I was just like intaking so much information that I lost connection with
Yeah.
myself, that I like couldn't even determine like what was best for me. I was just listening to like, I had all these voices in my head of what I should be doing. And then I had so much anxiety and like food fear, like so many people think like just say it's food related. And then I started having like all these food
Hmm.
fears, and like every time I would eat I would have so much stress and anxiety, and it just completely takes over your
Yeah.
life. And I remember exactly what you're saying of every little factor of like sleep and diet and exercise and just like product related, every piece of the puzzle would like be the right or wrong thing
Yeah.
to do. And that caused me so much stress. So for you to be able to be like, honestly, this is like ruining my
Yeah.
quality of life and I just need a break from this. And like, it would be way better actually for me if I just took this medicine, even though that's a whole other thing where I'm sure people had made you feel guilty
Hmm.
for that decision too. So it's like a lose-lose
Totally.
if you're just listening to what
Yeah.
everyone else
And
says.
it can definitely be overwhelming, especially when you're dealing with something that you've never dealt with before and it's all over your face. Like, so many people, rightfully so, would see me for the first time in so long and be like, I never remembered you dealing with acne before. And it's like, yeah,
Mm.
because I didn't. Like, this is new to me too. But, like, you can't hide it. And that's the
uh,
first thing that people see when it's all over you and it's not something that they're used to.
Yeah. And it's crazy just how something, and this happens with literally every physical aspect of our body. it's how much people tie that to your
Hmm.
worthiness, your confidence, your mental health, and just how you're perceived in the
Totally.
world. Like we get so caught up on how we're looking externally when it literally has nothing to do with who we are as a person, our values, like how we show up in the world. But then it's this thing that we feel just hugely, hugely, hugely is tied to like our
Yeah.
worth as a person. I'm sure that was that something that you
Yeah,
struggled
I
with
think
it?
that it just made me feel dirty almost. Like people would look at me and just, like
Mm,
she didn't take the time to clean her face properly or drink enough water when it's so much deeper than that. And I also found
yeah.
myself being perceived as younger than I am just because acne is usually something that happens in your teenage years. Adult acne specifically is so unspoken about. I mean, acne in general, but adult acne,
Yeah.
people would be like, "Oh, so do you go to college here? Like, what school do you go to?" I'm like, "No, like, no, no, I don't." So that was really interesting because I think not only do people look at you and perceive you differently, but they also immediately assume that you're 20.
I know it's funny because I also growing up didn't struggle with acne at all. Like when I was younger, like going through puberty, like all the times when that was what
Yeah.
was coming up. And then once actually like for me, once I got to college, then I started really struggling with acne. Like super bad, like
Mm-hmm.
hormonal acne, really painful acne. And like I tried so many different things. And I remember there was periods where like I was just so insecure about it. Like you said, like I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to make plans. Like I didn't want to see
Yeah.
people. And that's crazy to me that I let that impact what I was actually doing and living my life. And I think that's happens so often, like if we're struggling with like a
Mm-hmm.
physical aspect where we put our whole life on pause because we're just like, oh, I can't do this thing until whatever it is resolved, whether it be like weight gain or acne or just like
Yeah.
physical things that you're
Yeah.
struggling
It
with.
really just takes over your whole world.
Yeah. And so you said like this was timed with your move to LA. How did that impact like you making new friends and you like exploring LA and like your quality of life? Was that something that was a barrier to you like exploring what a new city
I
looked
feel like in
like?
the beginning when it happened, it was very touch and go. It came and went. So I just thought maybe I was, my body was adjusting to a new environment. So it wasn't as prominent in the beginning. It was kind of just like spots and, here and there.
Yeah.
So I think in the beginning, because it was something so new to me, I was so optimistic that because it was coming and going, it would just, resolve itself. But then as time went on and it started becoming so bad. It definitely impacted my desire to just like go to a workout class, which I used to love to meet people and like,
Mm.
do that for your sanity. It just became actually something that was so stressful because I was like, well, why would I wear
Mm.
makeup to a workout class and I'm just going to sweat, but then everyone's going to see my skin and my skin's looking so bad. So I think that it was kind of like a catch 22 because I've never been someone who is insecure about that stuff. Like growing up, I was always taught like, who cares what you look like? If you like your outfit, like wear that outfit. So for this to happen and for me to start feeling any form of insecurity, I just felt like I was starting to lose myself just because it was something so not
Mm.
typical for me. So I think that I kind of fought that feeling of insecurity just thinking that it would go away really fast, but then I would always second guess those occasions, like such as going to the gym and my skin looking so bad, but that's where everyone's, in their natural habitats. I wouldn't go out as confident. I was kind of, shying away from meeting people unlike my usual self, but I definitely still tried to put myself out there in the hopes that, it would resolve sooner than it did.
And what do you think changed your mindset from that to where you're at right now? Do you think just like the amount of time and almost like exposure therapy of it has helped your mindset? Is it like, did you do anything that changed how you felt about it? Or was it just kind of being more open? Like, what do you think caused that shift in
I
your
think the second
mindset?
I started speaking about it publicly and posting on social media, which, social media is out there for literally anyone to see, I just felt like such a sense of relief because people were reaching out to me way more than I ever expected. And it wasn't validating. It was validating. It wasn't like something that boosted my confidence per se, but it was more so like mentally validating knowing that other people are going through it. It just kind of felt like a warm hug. Like it was more so a push to, get yourself out
Oh,
there because other people are also going through it. So even if you feel like the only person in the room, likely there's other people that are experiencing the same thing. So I feel like it was more of a reassurance that, I wasn't alone in this crazy skin journey, and that to have it be eating me alive wasn't going to do me any good.
Yeah, I love that. And it probably felt also just so much less
It
isolating because I
definitely.
think this like shame, isolation, all of this just wraps up into such an emotion that creates disconnection when actually if you're able to zoom out and be like, "Oh, this is a normal thing that so many people are struggling with and I'm not alone in
Yeah.
it." I feel the same thing on my end whenever I keep something to myself and I really zoom in to be like, I'm the only one having this experience, no one else is having this, then I feel so much worse as when I'm open about it and start talking about it with my friends. And sometimes you kind of have to be the person that opens up that door, like other
Yeah.
people aren't as willing. Last week, my friends, two of my like best friends, we hung out and we made a notes app before we hung out because we hadn't seen each other in a while. We're like, all right, we're putting things that we like
That's
want to
so
talk about
cute.
this week and like what's top of mind. And the note was so cryptic. Like it made no sense. It was 3 sections. And then if you pulled it up, like if I read it to you, you'd be like, that's not in English. It doesn't make any sense. And so then we got to dinner and we were like, what are we,
Yeah.
what's top of mind? And we start going through it. I like that week had been really over fixating on like external appearance and body image and was like looking at old pictures of myself. And I was just like really being so critical. And I felt like it was really affecting my mental state that week. And then felt really alone in it and didn't say anything. And then one of my friends brought it up and she was like, I've been feeling just so fixated on like what I look like. I've been like body checking. She's like, I know this doesn't really matter, but I'm feeling really like
Yeah.
uncomfortable about it. And I felt like the biggest relief.
Yeah.
I was like, oh
I'm
my
not
God, me
alone.
too. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit. Yeah. And it's just like this moment of being like, oh my God, like someone else is saying the thoughts inside my head. And now it literally just like made my problems feel so much lighter. Nothing actually happened, but I felt so much
Yeah.
better about it. And then we just kind of talked it through and I was like saying something and also hearing her say that, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's like, you're so much more compassionate towards a friend. So then even just like sharing with her what I had been struggling with and hearing her talk back to me and just like kind of sharing what has been helpful or like reaffirming like that it
Yeah.
didn't matter was the best, most healing, liberating
Yeah.
thing
And it's
ever.
so crazy because, like you said, you probably didn't expect that to come from her. So when you hear now that I'm taking Accutane and went, through all this trial and error, when I talk to people, I think maybe 9 out of 10 people say, oh, yeah, like I struggled with my skin or I was on Accutane. I would have literally never known because no one talks
Never
about it.
known.
Like people
Yeah.
just suffer in silence with all these side effects of Accutane because how embarrassing for them to go around telling people that they have to be on this. But so many people go through
Mm.
it and you don't find out until someone initiates that conversation.
Yeah. And why is it embarrassing? Like, it's just so crazy that we've put that label on like this experience is that it's embarrassing or that you shouldn't. If like people are going through it, you don't see the behind the scenes. And then maybe once they have clear skin, they'd be
Yeah.
like, oh yeah,
Like,
I
let
was
me
on
show you
Accutane.
pictures.
And then they just, yeah, they never talk about it during the process when the process could potentially take a long time or it's
Yeah.
scary or there's side effects that no one is talking about. And I'm sure you probably went through like a Reddit or like Google spiral of all the side effects. But if you just heard someone like yourself talking about it on social media or anywhere or with a friend, it would feel probably less
Yeah,
scary.
definitely. And especially now too, like I try to curate my page towards positivity because at the end of the day, this is the path I chose. I'm already on Accutane. I'm taking it. I'm 2 months in. So for someone to come on my page and comment and be like, why would you ever do this? Like you're lucky. Like some of us have been left with, long-term disabilities. I'm like, I would rather not hear that. So I think that
Yeah.
you definitely can spiral on the internet in such a bad way, but then when you find someone speaking about it, it's so helpful. But there's always going to be, the people coming from such an outside perspective when it's just really not welcomed. So then again, like it causes another rabbit hole for everyone else considering going on it. So you kind of just have to like pick and choose what you consume and take the overall picture of someone speaking to their journey and kind of let, the outsider's negativity go. But that's definitely been something crazy that I've experienced too, because why would you go up to someone who's already chosen a path to tell them to reverse what they're doing when that's just not an option.
So unhelpful. Do you feel, I know you said that your provider created a more custom approach for you. What did that look like?
She was the first dermatologist that I've gone to that actually sat down with me for the first time for 45 minutes and actually spoke through everything with me. Whereas all the other dermatologists that I've been to have just been like, take it, just get it over with. Why not? So many people go on it. She sat down with me. She listened to my concerns. She, gave me the possibilities of what could happen in relation to my concerns. And she took everything into consideration and made a plan so that essentially I'm starting on a very low dose. So I'm introducing the drug really slowly to my body rather than just throwing it at me and seeing what happens, which most doctors do. They start at a pretty high dose just so that your length of time on Accutane is shortened. But she was like, let's take the risk of you having to be on it for 1.5 to 2 years, because at the end of the day, you still did it. But if that's what's going to make you the least miserable, then let's try it out. So she really she customized it towards my concerns, my body, and is taking it on a month-to-month basis, is very communicative, which is so appreciated because I find a lot of times that doctors are just super dismissive and, take every person the same as the next, when in reality it's just very different. That was a breath of fresh air.
And every person is so different, so it doesn't make sense for there just to be one approach, or to read an article online and think that just because this person had this side effect that it's going to happen to you. Or like, everyone's bodies are just so different, and the way that we interact with medicine is so different. So it needs to be a fully custom approach and experience, because like what works for you just might not work for someone else, and vice versa. It's something that my friends and I were talking about also, was just changing who we follow on social media. And my one friend had said like she followed a lot of models and a lot of just like unrealistic pictures of what people are posting. And I said that's something that had been really helpful for me over the past couple of years. Is like I just completely changed who I follow on social media to be people like your account, or people that are really just posting raw versions of themselves, or calling out if like they're posting, oh, this was me, but this is what I actually look like. So don't compare yourself to this. And I feel like my friend had said, oh, I've never thought of that. Like, I didn't realize I could just unfollow this model that's making me feel bad about myself. And I think that's something that's really helped me. Do you feel like you have favorite people on social media that you follow, that people that have been your inspiration?
That's such a good question. I feel like in general, I tend to follow creators that are showing their everyday lives, but in the most natural way. Like, let's roll out of bed and make breakfast. Let's not do a 17-step makeup routine. I love creators that will sit there and go through what's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them, and just show that there's another side of like things not working. Not everything always works out.
I have a couple I'll send to you. This girl, Olivia Nocita, she posts amazing content, and she had like really struggled specifically with acne, and she posts like so raw, open, and like people always comment on her videos. Emily Billings, who I actually had on the podcast, she's amazing, and she started posting like her skin, and I remember all the comments were like, thank you so much for posting this, like this is what my skin looks like, this is so real. And she would just be so open with her experience. She actually worked with a makeup brand too that was doing the same thing as Refi was doing, where they were doing a whole campaign that was actually inclusive of what normal people's skins look like. I can't remember who it was, maybe Milani or something, but it was something like that. And then I follow a lot of people that post just like normal, like I feel like I struggle with body image, so I like will focus on people that are posting like their normal bodies on social media. And to that point, it's funny because I was talking to a friend once, and I remember when I was really struggling with my skin, I would always look at other people's skin, like in real life, and I would be like, oh, they have perfect skin, or like their skin is so glowy, and like I would just only focus on what their skin looked like literally nothing else about them, because that's what I was really insecure about on myself. And my friend had like, she didn't struggle with that. And she like, I think it was something about hair. Like she would really only focus on what people's hair looked like. And she would be like, oh my God, did you see that girl's hair? I'm like, no, skin. But did you see that girl's skin? Like, And we were like looking at two completely different things. And it just was a reminder for me that no one is really fixated on the things that we're fixated on. It's just like so personalized to what your own mental state is. And like, if you're like I wasn't doing it to pick apart something. I was like admiring their skin. But like if someone is doing that to you to like pick apart something on you, it's probably something that they're insecure about or that they're comparing. But like everyone is so worried about themselves. And I feel there's not just, one perception of Liv. There's like my perception of you. There's like a million different perceptions of you that you're never going to be able to control. True. So that's also liberating to me. Like no one is as fixated on the things that we're insecure about, even though we think that they are.
It's so true. And you're so right. Like I would never in a million years look at people's skin until I started going through it. It was always like, wow, they look so great. Like their outfit is so cool. But when I started looking at their skin, like you said, it wasn't judgment. It was more so curiosity. Like other people have this. And it's like, it's like nice to see.
Yeah. And it's funny. Like I notice where I'm at is just a reflection of what I see in other people. Like we're saying, if I feel like I'm in a place where I'm being super critical and judgmental of myself, I will like notice certain things on other people. But if I'm in a period where I feel just like really comfortable with myself and really open, like I just don't notice those things at all. And I feel very like calm and comfortable. And I'm like very focused and present on our interaction rather than all these external factors. But it's like I have seen that change within myself also. And I'm sure that happens to other people too.
Definitely. I think that your mental state really reflects on your thoughts and environment.
Yeah. How do you feel like you're sharing on social media when people are reaching out to you? Like, what is your interactions with them been like? Are they just mostly saying like they've never seen other people post these types of things or like feel relieved, like kind of how we're saying? Like, what's your interaction with the people? And is it people that you've never met before, like just random
total
people
strangers,
online?
And it's been honestly the sweetest thing ever. And it's also taught me that you don't need like 50,000 followers for someone to really resonate with your content or be impacted by it. Most of them have been total strangers, and a lot of them have started with, hey, I've never actually reached out to someone on the internet, but I just really felt inclined to let you know that your content has helped me feel so much less alone. A lot of people have reached out saying that they've been considering taking Accutane, but they're hearing so many opinions around them. And so they've just been absolutely terrified. So to see someone on this journey and sharing their tips and tricks and how it's going for them has made them feel a little more validated in their ideas to even consider going on Accutane. But overall, so many people just express their struggles. Like I've been dealing with it since I was 14. I always feel like I want to hide in my room, and I never knew that other people felt that way. So for you to share that and for me to know that I'm not alone is such an amazing feeling. Like, thank you so much. And, keep sharing. I love following along. So it's been so sweet.
That's the best. And it's so important to have that reminder. Like you don't need to have 100,000 followers to make an impact on someone. Like you sharing that and it being able to impact like literally one person probably makes it feel worth it for you. I know for me too, like I have been sharing content online for a very long time. And in the beginning, like literally no one, I was talking to like 3 people.
Somewhere though. And I think people forget.
Yeah, people forget. And like, I think I've heard a lot of my friends or just people I know be like, oh, I want to create content, but I could never do that. Like I could never put myself online. And I think that's such a limiting belief. Like every single person has something to share and to say. And you have to start at 0 followers. Yeah. Like no one's account just automatically starts at 100,000 followers. So I appreciate that it's been a slow growth because it's taught me to have like more confidence in myself and also to just be able to have that one-on-one interaction with people. I think if my account blew up overnight and like I never got those little moments of what it felt like to connect with people on such an intimate level, I would have missed the point of what it means to share.
Totally. And it
online.
Also just shows, that your efforts are actually, once you see yourself grow, it's like going somewhere. And actually going back to a favorite creator, one of my friends, Raquel, I'll send you her profile. She actually speaks to body image, but she has I think like 40K followers now. She's crushing it. And she was the one that just kind of like gave me the push. She was like, share your stuff to Instagram. Like you're already putting it on TikTok. Why not? And I was like, you know what? You're right. Like she also started somewhere and she brought me as her +1 to an event the event was so fun, but it was so cool just like seeing the different types of creators there. And she was just saying, like, it's so cool that this is now her job when it stemmed from something so personal. And we were just talking about how when you share content, it feels like no one's looking or people are judging. But she was like, people are always watching my content, whether it be silently or out loud. And people are going to judge no matter what you do. So you might as well just do it. And she's just crushing it.
Yeah,
So
that's
I think that's a
amazing.
good little reminder that everyone starts somewhere and everyone feels the same way. Like either no one's watching it or this isn't going to go anywhere. What if I fail? But you never know.
Yeah. And I feel I love when I am on TikTok and I see people that I know. I'm like, yes, you go. Like that's so
Yeah,
fun. And I feel like that's what inspired me to start creating content because it's funny also how TikTok feels like an
a
easier place
hundred
to
percent.
start. That's where most of my content is because Instagram feels
Yeah.
so scary. But I also started on TikTok and before my account was growing, I had so many doubts of like, is what I'm saying important? Does this matter? All those things. And then I just kind of consistently kept at it. And I had the same fears. Like I stopped drinking last year. And before I stopped drinking, I felt like, am I going to be not fun if I stop
Yeah.
drinking? Am I going to lose all my friends? Like all this stuff. I had so much fear about it and no one was talking about it. So when I started talking about it online and then people were messaging me like, oh my God, I stopped drinking and this is so helpful. And I have had the same fears, or I didn't realize like I could try all these other activities. This is so helpful. Or I went to this new place that you recommended last week and it was so much fun. Like just having this interaction with people and seeing how much it can really make an
Yeah.
impact made me feel so much more
Yeah.
confident and like gave me
To
the
keep
momentum
going.
to keep
Yeah.
posting of like, yeah. So it's really hard at first if obviously you're just putting things out into the void, but it really does like if you're not posting because of a fear of judgment, I think that's a thing to get
Hmm.
past because it's so worth it. If it's something that you love, obviously it's not for everyone, but I find so much joy out of creating content and it's a really fun way for me to express. And I don't know, I love it. It makes me feel so connected
I
to other
agree. And the
people.
thing is someone's always going to judge you. So if there's something going on in your world that's so consuming already, like my skin was already so consuming, I might as well, like make something exciting out of it. Like look forward to my days with it and
Yeah.
share with other people what's going on. And if someone wants to judge, so be it. Like it's usually someone judging out of
Yeah.
their own insecurity of not ever wanting to share their own skin, which is fine. But I've had people say to me, in such a positive, nice way, good for you, because I would never post my acne online. There's always like a fear of that
Yeah.
judgment, but someone's going to judge. And I think it takes a specific type of person to remember that someone's always judging and you got to get over that.
Yeah, definitely. And also, the more that you judge other people, the more you place that limit on yourself. Like, if you're the type of person that's always saying, like, oh my God, I can't believe they're wearing that. Can't believe they said that. I can't believe they posted that. Like, subconsciously, you're telling yourself that it's not okay for you to
Right.
express freely. So, every time you say, like, oh my God, I can't believe she posted that, then, like, a little person inside of you is like, oh yeah, I can't post online. Like, I am restricting
Yeah.
myself from that. And the more that you do that in every area of your life, you just feel so limited. And it's probably leading to a lot of anxiety and a lot of just being in your own head and not being able to be present. Where like I feel so open to other people. Like anytime I see literally anyone doing anything, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's
You
so
go,
cool.
girl.
Like that's interesting
Yeah.
or whatever. Like I don't,
Yeah.
yeah, literally don't care at all because I feel really open to just do whatever I want. Like I feel really open to express and to wear whatever I want and to do whatever I want and like say
Yeah.
whatever I want and just be like really open. And I'm not constantly like going around being like, oh my God, I can't believe that this person said this. And like, I never talk about other people with my friends. Like now my conversation has shifted so much to more interesting topics. Whereas when I was in high school or when I was younger, like all of my conversation was just
Hmm.
about other people, which is so boring and
Yeah.
toxic. And now when I'm talking to my friends, like we talk about actual real things rather than what other
Yeah.
people are
And I
doing.
think the people who are meant to be in your corner will be in your corner no matter what you share. So I think that's also so important to remember. Like the people who are judging you for what you're doing and not supporting you are just not your people per se.
Yeah, wouldn't you rather know that? Like I would, posting online just
100%.
expedites the process. Like I would, like I don't want those people in my life. So the faster I can get
Get
them out
out.
of my life, like is good for me. Like if there's going to be someone in my life that's going to constantly be placing all these limiting things on me or trying to keep me
Yeah,
small or just like not supporting me, like why would I want that human being in my life? So if they're
totally.
going to judge me, I'm like, all right,
Bye.
cool,
I'll be here.
bye.
Bye.
Have you feel like did you lose any friends or like were you surprised by anyone in your life that was judgmental to you sharing online or like that you saw friendships that
Yeah, I feel
shifted?
like I definitely didn't lose any friends over it, but I did see some were less supportive than others. Like some would stalk the social media page, but not follow it and just bring it
Mm,
up in terms of conversation for their own personal sake. Like, how did you do this? I tried this and it didn't work. So that was like a little hurtful, just knowing that they were, like trolling. They knew what I was doing, but they couldn't put in the extra step
yeah.
to actually full force be supportive of it. Um, Definitely a lot of my closest friends have been so amazing. I'll send them literally pictures of my skin every week, being like, look at it now. Who wants those? Like, no one asks for
Oh,
that. And, the people who will always be in my corner are like, oh my God, it looks amazing. That's so exciting. How do you feel? So I think, you really learn who your people are and who's supporting you no matter what you're doing, whether it be deemed as weird or out of the ordinary or what. So it's definitely been interesting to see
yeah.
who chooses to support, to help, to judge, and whatnot.
Yeah. For sure. And it's funny, it's like those that when if I have friends that are going through something, like I am so invested in it. So I'm sure
Yeah,
your friends are the same way, even though you think that they don't care. If my friend like sent me something like that or they're struggling with something and they send me like a weekly update, I'm like the number
yeah,
one most invested person in whatever they're going through. I'm
same.
like so on
Yeah,
their path. And I'm sure like you as a friend, if you're attracting friends like that, you're the
yeah,
same way with them. So it's just a reminder, like we think people don't care, but
yeah,
they do care because
yeah.
they love you.
It's very true.
What are your since going on Accutane, I know that there is side effects, obviously. Like, what has been your tips that have made it easier or better if someone else is either starting Accutane or they're like scared to go on it that have made it a bit easier for
So
you?
many people have actually reached out to me asking this, and I think my number one thing is a mental aspect of it. You have to feel ready to go on it. You can't let someone pressure you into
Mm,
going on it. I think feeling ready is the most important thing because then you kind of take it as it comes. It's not as much of a shock to the system. Like, you know what you're getting yourself into. You know that you want this, so you're doing it for your own sake. And on top of that, I think it's really important to find a doctor that really listens to you, especially if you have that extra fear. Just, to be comforted and confident in knowing that what you're doing is the right decision and will be given to you in the most thoughtful way. So I think feeling ready with it, the decision to go on it, finding a doctor that actually takes the time to listen to you, and then also just listening to your body and speaking out if something doesn't feel right. If you start on a dose that's not good for you and you're terrified of the side effects and you're starting to feel those side effects, like there's no shame in having to decrease the dose. I think one thing about Accutane specifically is people always feel like they need to continuously increase the dose because that's usually how it works. You increase it until you're at a peak and then you start to decrease it and wean off of it. But I think it's okay to like take steps backwards, and that's not something that people will always speak about. But if you're on 60 milligrams and you're really feeling the effects of it, I think there's no shame in being open about it, talking to your doctor and requesting that you take a step backwards. So really just listening to yourself, listening to your body, and having someone to really guide you through it is so important.
yeah, that's such a good reminder to just like continuously check in with yourself and what you need. And if you like, it's just all at
Yeah.
your own pace. So that makes a lot of sense. Has there been any products or like certain hacks or things that have made like physical symptoms feel better for you or just have kind of soothed some of the symptoms you've been
Yeah. So
having?
I've actually not experienced too many symptoms, which I feel really lucky for. And I think it's because I'm on a really low
That's
dose.
amazing.
But
Yeah.
my only two symptoms and side effects that I've had are dry lips and bloody noses. And in terms of those, I'm
Mm.
still on the hunt for a good chapstick, so stay tuned for that. But in terms of skincare, I like lather my skin in a really thick moisturizer every night to just kind of let it sink in. My favorite is Oak Essentials. It's a Jenny Kane brand. I don't
Ooh,
know if East Coasters are familiar with it. It's created in LA.
I've never heard of
Yeah,
it.
so it's by Jenny Kane. It's Jenny Kane's line, and it's amazing. It's like the most soothing, aesthetically pleasing, actually effective skincare. So I use their moisturizing balm, which I love. Aside from that, I love La Roche-Posay. I think it's so effective. I used to really judge it because
Oh.
it was just in a drugstore. So I just, immediately jumped to, oh, it's in a drugstore. It's accessible to everyone. Like, it must not be good. I was wrong. I love it. It's great for sensitive skin. It's so gentle and it's, again, really effective. In terms of makeup, I have been loving Say Beauty. I love them as a brand.
My
Yeah, I
favorite.
love them as a brand and everything they stand for to begin with, but their products actually work so well. And it's hard to find a brand that you admire from both like a business and consumer perspective. So, big supporter of Say. I think those are like my two go-tos for skincare, but I also one thing I've noticed is my hair has been really dry. I never really struggled with greasy hair to begin with, but I could probably go a week without washing
Mm.
it, and I don't do that because I like to feel
Wow.
clean. But I've been definitely caring for my hair more than I usually do just because it feels, really dry and like straw textured. And I've been loving Crown
Yeah.
Affair. Like all of their products have been
Ooh.
amazing. The hair oil, the exfoliating scalp scrub, the leave-in conditioner. So that is like my number one recommendation because I think people forget that when they're going through something related to their skin that it also affects other parts of you, such as your hair. So love Crown Affair and definitely recommend that.
Yeah, those are all such good products. I haven't tried them, but I've
So
heard a lot of good
good.
things. And Say Beauty is also my
Yeah.
fave. And drugstore products too. I use a lot of drugstore like moisturizers and face like
Oh, yeah.
CeraVe is like my
That's what I
face
use
wash.
for face
And
wash.
yeah, like the basics are so good. I think a lot of times when we're struggling with acne and like when my skin is breaking out, I try to use so much and I really overdo it. I'm like doing all of the things and I definitely make
Yeah.
it worse. So even though it's so tempting, like just sticking to the basics, being
Less is
patient and
more.
like trying not to, yeah, less is more is a very good mentality to
Yeah.
have there. This has been so helpful. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you are thinking about and like going through for your own journey. What is one thing that you would leave for people that are also going through this to just give them like a little bit of hope or something that you think would like you would have wanted to hear a couple of
It's
months
so
ago?
cliche, but I think it's so important to remember that it does get better. And even when it feels like that's totally impossible and out of reach, you just like gotta keep going with the motions because there's no way that you're gonna live with acne for the rest of your life. Like I always think, find me an 80-year-old who has acne, who has had acne since 15. Like you don't see old people with acne. It's because they've found a way to resolve it. So it gets better, and there's times that it feels like it definitely won't, but it definitely does. And I think having that daily reminder would have been really helpful.
Yeah, that's so important. I think a lot of times with anything that I'm struggling with, it's so easy to be thinking, oh, this is so permanent and it's going to last forever and I'm never going to get through this. And I look back even at old pictures of like remembering things that I was struggling with or times where my skin was really bad or just different periods in my life where I thought that it would never get better. And obviously it always
Yeah.
does. So it's a good
Yeah.
reminder for
Yes.
sure.
And even if it's the most roller coaster of a journey,
Mm,
like there's always an ending that's happy at one point or another, whether it be permanent or not. Like a break from acne
yeah.
is a win.
Yeah. And also now you're connecting with all these people online and helping other people through
Yeah,
their journey. So even though it's not your ideal experience, probably like you found a way to make it feel really meaningful and also really helpful for other people that are struggling
definitely.
too.
Yes.
Speaking of which, where can everyone find you online and follow you? And a little self-plug moment.
My Instagram handle and TikTok is Balanced by Liv.
I'll link everything down below. Definitely has been one of my fave new accounts to follow. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you coming on. This was so fun. So nice to catch up.
Thanks so much. And you're also on to something amazing. Speaking about things that people don't talk about.
Hope you loved this episode of Recalibrate. I am so grateful to be in your ears and to spend time with you and to get to share this conversation with you all. If you want to stay in touch, we are recalibrate.podcast on Instagram and also on TikTok at Recalibrate Podcast for short little clips. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, week, whenever you're listening to this, and I'll talk to you again so soon.